Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tao of the Day. And this is Martin John, and we are here after our Vibe-a-thon yesterday to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written about 600 BCE. It's a Chinese text. And I was talking about this the other day, but, standardized Chinese text wasn't really established until 200 BC. Now, writing started around 1200 BC. So, writing had been around for 600 years, but it didn't get standardized for another 400 years after the Tao Te Ching was written. But we also have to understand that the Tao Te Ching wasn't written as it was written down because it was being discussed. It had already been being discussed for a long period of time before anybody was able to write it down. And then when it got written down, it wasn't written down because it was just somebody, right? Even though it was written down by somebody, that someone did the act of writing it down. It wasn't about that person. It was about the fact that these are the laws that we've observed in the universe. These are the laws that we've observed, kind of just discussing all that's going on around us. And so in that, when we read the Tao, we have to recognize that just like the first verse of the Tao states, it's not about the words. It's about observing. It's about observing the objective truth of the universe. We're all having subjective experiences, but those are going to lead us to objective experiences, right? To understand the objective truth of the universe. And I was thinking this morning, I don't know how this is all going to tie together, but we just have faith. So someone had written me yesterday on here about crying. I was very grateful to speak with somebody, and they were like, and I was just expressing it's always great to connect. And then they were like, oh, even when I cry, it's so common to judge ourselves in all sorts of ways. If we cry in front of someone, we might be self-conscious of it or whatnot. But, we're not self-conscious if we sneeze in front of somebody. But I always look at all of these things, anytime we express something, that's just energy moving. It's like if you're in a conversation and you go into a coughing fit, like pay attention to what caused the coughing fit, not in your throat, but the conversation and energy that you have that you're currently exchanging with somebody. Same thing with sneezes. Now, yes, sneezes can be because of pollen and can be because of hay fever and can be, but if you were to observe all of the things around your sneeze, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what somebody is saying when you sneeze, someone's saying when you cough, what is it you're feeling as you enter into that? If you take into the consideration the fact that this may be energy moving through you, I wonder what it has to say. If we don't take things as, oh, that's just this, it has nothing to do with everything else. And if we recognize that everything has everything to do with everything else, if we just consider that, we can start looking at things from a different perspective. And the Tao Te Ching talks a lot about oneness, because it is non-dual. You are me, and I am you, and I am God, and I am the tree, and I am, like, all of the things. It's all oneness. It's non-dual text. It's like there is no separation. And if there is no separation, then you're sneezing and you're falling asleep and you're yawning and you're, like all of these things that you do, and you're crying. They're not things that you can necessarily control. They're not things that are necessarily yours to manhandle. So I always like to surrender to those things, but also be curious to them. Be curious to the idea, like, well, why did I sneeze right now? Why did I cough right now? It's interesting when I listen to people, and they sneeze or they cough or during a certain segment that they're doing, like if they're doing a talk or whatever. And then I always say, oh, that's interesting that happened at that moment. It's always insightful, and it always kind of like, just if we just approach it with curiosity, we just approach the idea that, like, things are always trying to get out. Information is trying to get your attention. If we approach it from that perspective, then we start looking at all the things that, and the moments when we are, when we sneeze or when we cough or when we, when those things happen, right? And same thing with crying. If we cry, or if we start, and it often happens, in our chest, and that's where, I feel it coming first. It's not in my face. It's like, oh, there's heaviness. And, sometimes I can feel like when somebody comes on, I can feel that heaviness in my chest. And it's like, oh, I'm talking to, and there's a lot of energy. And I'll even say that. I'm just like, let's take a moment and take a breath and like, because there's heaviness, when and there's so much to be said about the subtle. And, Tao often talks about paying attention to that subtleness, the subtlety of what it is you're experiencing right now. So sometimes I'll have a guest and they'll be like, oh, wait, like my guest is sad, and I can feel sadness when they come on. Now that doesn't, I'm not prying, but we're all one. And if the Tao Te Ching is to be believed, and I believe it, we're all one, and there's no separation. And so when you come on, it's like we're connecting. Now we're connected now, but because we physically now have a more conspicuous connection, that connection gets honed, right? It's kind of like, well, the sun can set things on fire, sure, but you can speed that up if you use a magnifying glass, right? And that magnifying glass it magnifies the energy, magnifies the light, magnifies the connection between the sun and, the ants or the leaves or whatever it is you're looking to burn. Okay, well, on this program, if you're new to Noon Vibe or new to Tao of the Day, what I do is I invite you up. You can click that join button or the little cat. I don't know how what it all looks like on your end. I know I've been on your end for other talks, but I don't even know. I think it's just you click the little sleepy cat, and then you can join me. And I'll just ask you what's going on with you. I'll ask about, I'll just ask a general what's going on. And when and you can answer that as detailed or as loosely as you feel. And then I'll ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81. And the reason that it's between 1 and 81 and not 1 and 10 is because there are 81 verses in the Tao Te Ching. And they're short-ish. 250 words might be the longest. And so I read through it, and then we go through it line by line, go through it section by section, and we relate it to what's going on with you. So if you say, oh, what's going on with you? You can even say, oh, nothing much. I go to work today. Okay. I might ask you what you're doing, what you do. And then that will launch into our conversation around the text that you selected because of the number that you chose. So that's how this program works. And if you want to join me, you can. I went with a random number. I have a random number generator, and I went with a random number. And what was it? 72 got brought up. Now, what I was talking about earlier was curiosity about like sneezes and cries and coughs and things, little things that, like little things that happen in your body when you're in conversation or when you're thinking or when you're just driving down the road, and just being curious about, I wonder what my body is trying to get me to pay attention to. Just being curious about the idea that is it possible that there is something happening that I need to pay attention to, and my body is letting me know that? Is it possible? And number 72 is entitled With Nothing to Teach. With nothing to teach. Let's see what this says. The knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained. Losing themselves in that process, they turn to more knowledgeable authorities. Do not make light of what is important to people, and they will respect you. Therefore, the master, although she knows herself, she is not arrogant. She loves herself as she is, but she also loves others as they are. She has nothing to teach, and the knowledgeable have nothing to learn. So we mention the knowledgeable at the end here, and we start with the knowledgeable. We start by mentioning the knowledgeable. So the knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained. Losing themselves in that process, they turn to more knowledgeable authorities. So if I were to spell this out for myself, the knowledgeable are people who have accumulated knowledge. It doesn't necessarily mean through school, but that is one way of doing it. And so going to school, they have learned that everything has an explanation. Everything has an answer. Everything has a scientific explanation. Right? They have learned everything about the universe. The knowledgeable. Having lost their sense of awe. See, what I was talking about earlier, the idea that sneezes, coughs, energy transitions such as that. That if you think that your body, when you sneeze, is moving energy, I always call it moving energy. It's just moving energy. And if you were to think about the idea of energy moving and communicating with you, then you'd have a sense of awe. You'd have a sense of, oh, wow, that's amazing. I have a guest coming up, and I can come back to 72. I'm taking a note really quick. Always read. Are you with me? Always read the plaque. Now, not everybody that is on Noon Vibe always wants to join when they do. So what I normally do is I just leave you on for a minute, and then I'll take you off stage. If I do take you off stage and you're just trying to sort out your microphone and other things like that, please join me again. And I would love to have a chat about whatever is going on with you. I'm going to go ahead and take you off. And like I said, if you're just trying to sort out your microphone, please join again. Always read the plaque. I appreciate you checking it out. Okay, so the knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe. And as I was talking about earlier, if you are curious about, like the way you move energy, like if a cough or a sneeze is actually moving energy and trying to get you to pay attention to something, then there's awe there, right? Like that's wow, but the knowledgeable know that, it's just dust. I must have just turned up some dust. It doesn't have anything to do with anything, right? Like all of a sudden, I lost my sense of awe. I don't have any awe in the world. It's just, it can be explained. And when everything can be explained, well, then there is nothing amazing in the world. And so if there's nothing amazing in the world, I'm going to go out and seek to be entertained. So that's the first line. We just had to go through all that to explain the first line. The knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained. The knowledgeable, because they can explain everything, nothing is magical. And so they want to go out and be entertained. Losing themselves in that process, they turn to more knowledgeable authorities. Essentially, because they were going out being entertained and they're not in awe of anything anymore, they turn to people that know more than them so that they can be impressed. And they can know more, and they can answer more questions. They can lose even more awe. And maybe that turns people stupid. Maybe that turns people into not believing anything. Maybe that turns people to believing too much, but not being in awe of it. It's interesting as we don't know, it doesn't say, it's just they turn to more knowledgeable authorities. Jane, how are you?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing wonderfully. Just thinking about energies this morning.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I've been listening as I've been drinking my coffee. I spoke to you for the first time a few days ago, and I picked the number 4, and we talked about the void. Mm-hmm. And it was very informative and has carried me through, and I've been thinking about it further. And that very day I had a women's group, and the way the women's group works is we read a book. We read many different kinds of books, and right now we're reading Start Where You Are by Pema Chodron, which is a really great book. And that we read one chapter a week, and it was about it was the same theme, which was just perfect synchronicity, Mm-hmm. And I shared with the group my experience on your program. It was great. It was just wow, so I'm sort of really starting to get into the Tao and how does this thing work? I'm really curious. So I thought I'd do it again this morning.
Yeah. Well, so let's just, how are you feeling?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good.
Then all we have to do is, you can pick a number between 1 and 81, or like I said, I can pick a random number for you.
Oh no, I'm going to pick a number, but now it has more weight. Now that I know what this Tao thing is, it's just, or, I had that first experience. It's like, oh, picking a number is like, you're picking
what is
a
coming to
number.
me? Yeah.
So, okay, how about 45?
Okay. Beware of words with meaning is the title of 45.
Okay.
Now, what does that say to you, just off the bat, the title?
I'm a songwriter.
Okay.
That's what popped into my mind. It's like, there are songs, words are very powerful to me, and words evoke a whole, a phrase can evoke a whole chapter, sort of,
Yeah.
So words are very, very powerful to me, I have to say.
All right.
So read that title again.
Beware of words with meaning.
Well, my gosh, that's like antithetical to what I do.
Yeah. So this may be a bit of a challenge. So let's get into it and see where it takes us. To not define your accomplishments, you will always have patience to spare. To not acknowledge your fullness, you will always have space to spare. When we define something as straight, we see how crooked it is. When we define someone as skilled, we focus on how clumsy they are. When we call a speech eloquent, we notice the stammering therein. The master needn't define things. What they are will arise naturally. By removing herself and her need to know, she can see Tao express itself fully. What I like to ask when we finish reading is there a word, line, phrase that stood out just stronger than anything else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say what I do understand and feel is, you don't have to label stuff.
Right.
That's and I completely agree with that and get that. And when words do come, if we're just talking about songwriting, maybe I'm going to write a song today. I don't know.
Yeah.
When words do come to me, if they evoke something, I don't, that's not true. I was going to say I don't really pass judgment on them, but I do actually, because I'm always like thinking, is this contrived? Is this,
Right.
Is this obvious? Is this mysterious enough? So I'm always trying to go to a place where it, what I'm writing is evoking something rather than teaching a lesson.
Right.
I don't know how else to say it.
Well, it's interesting because when you came out, like, just like you said earlier, like the weight of picking a number now.
Yeah.
Right. So you had an experience, and that experience, although it doesn't have a word, it had meaning. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so we could say that, like, now it is, it's evoking something in you, like and you gave it some sort of meaning.
Yeah.
And what it says here, like, when we define something as straight, we see how crooked it is. And so you can define something as magical and see how dull or mundane it is.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You can, and as soon, and that's because it's kind of like when you say, oh, like, if you talk up a song or if you talk up a movie and someone goes and sees it and they're not super impressed, and then you're like, oh, I must have like ruined your experience by talking it up so much.
Yeah.
You know, because once you're focused on, oh, this is a great movie, and you go and see it, and it's like, well, really? Like, that was like, I didn't see it. You know, I didn't see the greatness in it. I didn't see, and because you've defined it. You defined it like you had it defined for you by someone else. You defined it for someone else.
Mm-hmm. And I've also absolutely done it the other way, where I've seen something and said, oh my God, you've got to go see this. And then they go and they say, I'm not really.
Well, that's the whole, like, that's my point, where it's like, once they're focused on, this is going to be great. It's like you see the badness in it, right? Mm-hmm. Like you see like whatever, like, it's not there. And that's what beware of words with meaning. Right? Like, because that word means something. And once you use it, like if I say Jane is great, well, Jane is more than great. Right? Jane can probably also be a bitch. And Jane can also be brilliant. And Jane can also be all of these other things. But if I have a word that has meaning, you are so much more than anything that can be expressed.
True, that's true. But then writers and poets, they strive to try to grasp onto the essence of things, no?
Yes, they do. And I could step on your ego a bit. And like as an artist, because I'm an artist, you know, like, I mean, I had a 20-year career. So there is more in, like, art is small compared to Tao. Art is small compared to me. Art is small compared to you. Yes, you use words, and you use image, and you use paint, and you use things, and you use all of that stuff, like, and you use plumbing to express your fascination with the universe and what the world has to offer. Yes, but life is art. Right? Like, living your life, it's so much bigger than something that can be listened to for 3 minutes or something that can be looked at or seen. You know, this is why all of the ancient writings always talk about when God presents himself or herself to somebody, they can't look at them because it's too much. Mm-hmm. And that's what art is. Art is too much. And And what it does within us, right? It's like it explodes out of our chest when it's right. You know, when it's aligned, it's like, oh, it's just oozing out of me. Yeah. You know? And all I can do is channel it through. And it's not about thinking, and it's not about defining. And when you use those words, the thing is it's right. Like, when you write that song, beware of words with meaning. If you say this song is something, well, then that's going to focus everybody elsewhere. But when you...
Oh, yeah. I get it. Yeah.
Right? But when you allow yourself to be that channel and don't put meaning on any of those words. Let those words just be. And then it says at the end, the master needn't define things. Yes, you do things because you're inspired to do them through Tao. But you don't define it. You don't say, oh, I've done something. And then you move to your ego. And then what they are will arise naturally. Your song will arise and mature and be a child that you birthed, and then you can let it go. You don't have to hold on to it anymore. It is now in the universe as it needs to be without you coddling it.
Yep. No, what you're saying is how I've experienced writing something that that is just right for me. That's, as I said, I mean, I'm struggling with words here.
Good, good.
But like, when you write something and people are going, wow, what does that exactly mean? But it gives them an idea of what it might mean to them.
Right.
That to me is a success. And because actually the way you're framing it with words is you're not clear, it's not defined. It's right. You're not bringing meaning to it. You're leaving it open for other people to experience and come away with whatever they come away with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first lines of this, which don't always have as much weight as the rest of this, but to not define your accomplishments, you will always have patience to spare. Like, that's almost something that can use a graph, because once you define your accomplishments, the next time you do something, you're going to want to accomplish the same level of, whatever success or whatever, But when you do not define your accomplishments, and you don't define that, you've done something, like you wrote a song, or you wrote an album, or you recorded something. It's like, oh, look, these are all the accomplishments that I've had. And then it's like, all right, well, if over the next year you don't write anything, how patient are you going to be with yourself? Because you're like, oh, well, because all of a sudden all the praise and all the stuff that came with that accomplishment they're not present. And so it's like, well, you want that praise, you want to pat yourself on the back for that accomplishment. To not acknowledge your fullness, you will always have space to spare. Have you ever had a schedule where it's like full and like you freak out because it's full, but then in another week it's like you have a schedule and it's just as full, but it's full of like fun things that you're not acknowledging how full it is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you experience sort of like, sometimes you're super busy and you feel like burned out at the end of the day. And then other times.
Oop, you dropped out. Please come back up. Other times you're super busy and at the end of the day, you're still full because you're not acknowledging, right? Like it's that idea of taking acknowledgement of like, oh, I'm so full. My schedule is so full. Go on.
So sometimes, it's almost like the difference between being an introvert and an extrovert. There are some days where like the things you're doing, fill you up and feed you. And then that would be like, interaction with so many activities, so much scheduling, gives you energy, invigorates you, feeds you. But then other times it just depletes you.
And you said introvert and extrovert, and I can't let this go, but beware of words with meaning. If I'm an introvert, and I hang out with someone all day long, and then I come home and I'm tired, what do I blame my tiredness on? hanging out with that person or being too active or whatever, rather than just accepting that I'm tired and I'm going to rest. Mm-hmm. Period. Like, it's not okay sometimes to just be tired. We need a reason. If you were listening to my earlier one that was 72, the knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained. And they lose their sense of awe because they're knowledgeable. They're knowledgeable about all the meaning. Like, I'm an introvert. And so in order to recharge, I need to be alone. It's like, well, maybe you just need to rest, and you don't have to blame it on some diagnosis that you believe that you have. Like, you've shut yourself off by using this word that has so much meaning. Introvert or extrovert or whatever, like, I'm a creative. Well, okay, as soon as you say that, the moment you stop creating something, or if you don't make something within a certain amount of time, you're going to start to, because there's so much meaning to that word, especially to you, because you define yourself as such, not you personally, you generally, and that will tax you. You'll start to judge yourself. You'll start to do all these things that are, that strip you of your energy, strip you of your ability to be all that you can be. I mean, I'm not that you're going to go to the army or anything like that. Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
So once again, I'll send this text to you.
Yes, and when you send me the text, how is it sent? Because I was trying to find the other text. Do I get it in my messages in Vibe?
I believe, yeah. So if you, let me see, make sure. Yes, I did send it, and it did say you received it.
I'm just noticing like a little message.
Yeah, a little
in the top right of my
thought
iPhone.
Bubble, right? And if you click on that, you should see messages and if you see one from me, that should have the text from the last.
Oh, I got it. Thank you. Okay.
Absolutely. So that's where I will send the next one.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it, Martin.
I love chatting with you, Jane. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. I'll take you off if you don't know how to remove yourself. Yeah. Okay. I always like it when people start becoming interested in Tao. Like, Tao is like, it's been such a big part of my life. And similar to Jane's experience, I think that, it's very similar to the experience I had 20 years ago when I was just like, wait, what? And then it just started showing up everywhere, right? And then what happened is I regained a sense of awe, like we were talking in 72. Right? The knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, having lost their sense of magic, having lost their sense of curiosity, seek to be entertained. It's always nice when I can take the two, like the 72 and the 45, and bring them together, and kind of be like, oh, yeah. To define your accomplishments, to not define your accomplishments, you'll always have patience to spare. But defining your accomplishments is about being knowledgeable. It's about being knowledgeable and measuring. Julie's going to join me now. Hey, sweetie. Oh, look at your avatar, looking nice. Your new picture.
Yeah, that's me in my last place. I'll have to get a picture of me in my new place.
Yeah, where are you at now?
I'm in a tiny little village right in the heart of the countryside, surrounded by beautiful flowers, trees and autumn, and right next to a churchyard with dead people in it.
Oh, very nice.
I know, I was enjoying that.
You got the neighbors stay quiet. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. The neighbors are no trouble.
What's that?
It's a great community.
Yeah. People are dying to be your neighbor.
They are. But yeah, it's lovely. I took some pictures of it in the evening, at night. What I'm hoping to do before I leave is get a nice moonlit picture on that graveyard, because it's a 12th century church. 12th century. That's crazy, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah.
Those people, they've been dead a long time.
Long time.
And I was looking,
And they're still there, just hanging out. Like it must be a good area.
Yeah, they don't fancy shuffling off. In fact, they've put their roots down.
Yes, that's beautiful.
You can hardly read some of the gravestones, though, because they're so old. And it makes me think, when we put a little epitaph there and we put all our in loving memories and everything on these stones, they don't last forever, the same as we don't. Everything is constant change all the time. Half of the people lying in there, those old bones, I don't know what their names are or anything. But when they die,
But some of those people may have planted trees that are still around.
Maybe. They've made I will give them this. They've put a little plaque on the wall of the church. It kind of gives the history of the village. And the village is quite amazing. So these people have been part of a community. And they have built this. I think it was something like 165 houses that housed 86 families or something like that. And then it went down to 75 houses, which is very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
And housing 168 people. So that just kind of shows you that it's got a lot in it, those numbers. It's got a lot of change in it. So kind of interesting.
Yeah. And one thing that we have going for us in this world of AI and technology is having what's the word that I'm looking for? Perspective.
Yeah.
They didn't have perspective necessarily. Like before Tao was written, before the Tao Te Ching was written, as I was talking about this idea of time, because like the Chinese language started getting written between 8 and 1200 BC, and it was not standardized until 200 BC, but the Tao was written at 600 BC. So it's like, once again, a lot of information in those numbers. And when you have something that's written down first, when it's one of the first things that are written down, like they're not writing it down like Lao Tzu wasn't important other than the fact that he just happened to write it down. He just happened to be the person that wrote it down, and it was saved.
He's the vessel.
Right. The conversation was happening long before that, and it was going over generation after generation. And same thing with this village, generation after generation. There are things that shifted. I mean, someone decided to put a plaque, but there's probably a town that was right next to that went unnoticed.
Yeah, maybe.
Gone.
Yeah.
And it
maybe.
doesn't mean that any one is more important.
That's right.
That's
absolutely right. So I'm enjoying the space. I'm enjoying, reading the little plaques and the information. I went out onto a footpath that surrounds the village. The village is really small, and it's small but mighty.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, it's got these huge kind of estate houses in it, and rolling drives and CCTV camera in operation here. But anyway, I walked along the footpath, and it's surrounded by fields and trees, and you can really see autumn spring in now, the changing in the colours of the leaves, and they're on the floor, and they make that beautiful crunching sound as you walk along. And I managed to get my camera out today for the first time in a long time, and I got a lovely picture of a woodpecker today, right on the top. So it was a great woodpecker with the
great
red
what kind?
cap. Yeah.
Oh, was it? How big was it? Was it like a pileated woodpecker?
Sorry?
Was it a pileated woodpecker?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh, it's just a type of woodpecker. How big was it?
It wasn't very big. It was probably the size of my hand, which is a little small female hand that we're looking at here.
White spots and a red cap?
Yes.
Okay, so it was either a snowy or a red-headed.
A red-headed, I'd say.
Yeah.
Or what we know.
Snowy can have a red cap as well, and they have the white spots on their chest. So it might have been a snowy. I'm a fan of the birds.
So am I. Yeah, that's why.
A pileated woodpecker would have been about the size. Would have been about the size of your forearm and a hand. So it would have been much bigger.
Yeah,
it was. They're big birds, that's what Woody Woodpecker was.
No way. That is awesome. I have to look that up now. Thank you for another wonderful piece of information for me to go and rabbit hole now and go and find that. Pileated. How do you spell that?
P-E-A. Leated.
P-E-A. Hang on.
Yeah,
P-E-A.
it's P-E-A-L-I.
L-I-A-T-E-T.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I'm going to have a look at that one because I want to find what he looks like in real life instead of the cartoon.
Yeah, P-I-L-E-A-T-E-D.
That's it. I've got it.
Yeah.
So I want to pick a number, and it's going to be 26.
Okay.
That's where I am, number 26.
You're at number 26, wasted movement.
Yes.
Wasted movement. Without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. Without knowing stillness, all movement is wasted. This is why the master travels and never leaves home. Oh, that's beautiful. This is why the master travels and never leaves home.
Yeah.
No matter how amazing the manifestation, she knows there is nothing that she is not. Why should anyone seek to be influenced or entertained? If you let yourself be entertained, you lose touch with your root. If you let yourself be influenced, you lose touch with who you are. The thing that stands out to me is the entertained, because I was reading 72 today, and the knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained. Well, if we reference number 26 here, and why should anyone seek to be influenced or entertained? If you let yourself be entertained, you lose touch with your root.
Yeah.
And what it says here is the knowledgeable, having lost their sense of awe, seek to be entertained, meaning they lost touch with their root. Because they're getting knowledge from elsewhere. They're getting knowledge from, they're not just observing, the knowledgeable having learned from others, having read and did all these things. Not that reading is bad, but it's like when all of your knowledge is coming from outside of you, you lose touch with your root and you seek to be entertained.
Yeah, it's like almost for me, the way I'm reading that is your intuition, the innards of you, the feeling of, the going along with what you feel is the right thing and following that is the you. That is part of you. So I think when you start gaining your knowledge exterior from you, It's not always, it isn't you, basically. It isn't you. That's the thing. So intuition is you, and you can work with that with knowledge outside as well. But following that intuition will get you, kind of in the right space at the right time without putting any effort in. That's the best way I can say it.
Yeah. And that's that's where this verse starts, right? Without knowing darkness, light is mysterious and distracting. Without knowing that you can trust not knowing.
Yeah.
Like if you had to know everything, like you would not be able to live the amazing life you're living right now. Exactly. Like I'm not saying that it is only, like rainbows and lollipops, but
it's not, obviously.
Right. But you are having experiences that I don't know that anybody else, right. Yeah, anybody else on this platform is going to be able to have.
Yeah.
And you are having unique experiences that are connecting you to so many people.
Oh, yeah, and there's some
dead and alive.
People. Yeah, dead uns and live and kicking uns. Yeah. And they're lovely. The people that I'm meeting, Martin, John, they are so peaceful inside themselves.
And that's because you are.
Yeah, it's really, really lovely. This lady's gone on holiday, right? And I'm looking after her cat, and I have to give her cat insulin injections. She's got a lovely community here. The neighbour came round, a nice young lady who helped me, with me doing the task and her observing to make sure that everything was good and giving guidance as we went along. But this lovely lady's gone on holiday to the sea. And every day we've had a conversation. Every day we've spoken. And it's been delightful. It's not been like 2 minutes instruction or anything like that. It's lovely conversation. How nice is that? I'm really appreciating it. Yeah. Yeah, I really am. And these people are from kind of, if you like, I'll use this word gently, different spheres of experience than from where I came. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And because there's no judgment and no intention really, no need. There's no need for anything. Mm-hmm. It's just a kind of exchange that's mutual and pleasant. It just fits so nicely with my world, and it's really helping me to drop that measuring stick really hugely. Yeah.
And
that's lovely.
Everybody in every aspect that we experience in our lives is for us.
Yeah, absolutely is.
And you're interacting with all these people, and all the people that you interacted that brought you here, all the interactions that you've had that brought you to this moment, have taught you increasingly about yourself and about who you are and you've gotten to see yourself, and now you're seeing yourself this way.
Yeah, this is really quite a lovely thing to behold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Brad with you?
Yeah, he is. He's upstairs on his computer coding. You know what he's like.
Yeah. But I think that this is, I just want to know, like, the experience is so good for everybody that is having it. I'm so grateful for it.
And we're only here for a week. Saturday we move up to Cheshire.
Okay.
So that'll be a new experience.
You're going to go hang out with some cats up there? Some Cheshire cats. You dropped off. If you wanted to come back up, that's fine. Of course. And we can talk about the smiling Cheshire cats that you're going to go see. They're mischievous, so you got to look out for those up there.
Oh, I like that, because when I thought about it, that's the first thing that came into my mind, because one of the books that I absolutely loved as a child was Alice in Wonderland. And I liked it because for me, it was an exploration of the imagination. And I enjoyed that. And she kind of, she met different characters in this book. Some of them were more challenging for her than others. And one of the things that really stands out is that Alice spent a lot of time asking why people didn't like her. Didn't they like me? Why is the Queen of Hearts such a cow to me?
Yeah.
Why rabbit not tell me that it loves me? It expects me to chase it all around the place. And the Cheshire Cat, of course, divine. So to meet that Cheshire Cat, whose name is McKinnon, in a week's time, I will pop a picture on of the real Cheshire Cat.
Good.
I'll be staring at it, waiting for everything to disappear, but it smiled.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, wonderful. Really, really good. Thank you so much for having me on, Martin John. It's good to speak to you. I'm trying to think. I haven't spoken to you for a couple of days, have I? I have been kind of getting ready, packing all of my stuff up, and then doing some driving, and then trying to pack it in a way that I don't have to bring everything out into this stop.
Yeah.
It's a small space, and people can feel very overrun if you bring everything that you require into their house. It's just something to bear in mind.
Yeah. Well, it's all we learn, right?
Yeah.
And then
I watch faces because I think faces tell me so much more than even a conversation.
Yeah.
Because I think people find it more difficult to hide their expressions on the immediate.
You got to pay attention to the subtle, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And you can't be too you can't defend yourself, like energetically. So when you feel them when you feel the heaviness that they feel when you arrive, or if you feel lightness when they arrive, it's like, we could often be like, well, I need this stuff, and it's just like, oh no, they're allowed to feel that.
That's right.
They're allowed to feel heavy when I arrive because this is their home.
That's right.
And really, I don't want to hide anything from them, but maybe I don't have to bring so much.
Yeah,
maybe I could use their
display it all immediately. Maybe I can do what has been done in history and gently amalgamate my things in a slower process into their house.
Yeah. It doesn't just have to be like, oh, we're here and we have, a truckload of stuff. Speaking of, what's going on with your van?
Oh, it's doing all right. Keep fingers crossed. But it did cost us £2,000 to get to that stage. Yeah.
Well, you're not going to find another van for $2,000.
Exactly. And the one that we got for a very good price anyway. It was, so
works out.
It's all about balance, really.
Yeah.
I'm very glad that the van has decided that she feels better. Her name's Luna.
Is it a white van?
It is a silver van.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
So I wanted to get some little porthole windows in the back, actually, to make it look a little bit more like a spacecraft.
Yeah.
But that's just me being silly. But I like being silly. Silly's fun, It's not about being serious all of the time. But yeah, so she's doing all right. That's something that I experienced.
Good.
And I'll come out the other side. Luckily, I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and they said, it's good that you have some finance to be able to put that right. Yeah. And it's also good that it hasn't used all of your finance to put that right. So, got a lot to be grateful for.
It's like this is what this wasted movement is, right? Like, without knowing stillness, all movement is wasted. Like, you had to be still. You have to, it's another verse, but it says, like, the master doesn't engage the manifestation without first engaging herself. And that's what this is saying. Without knowing darkness, without first engaging yourself, light is mysterious and distracting. Like, the manifestation, the things you can see are going to make you try and figure it out. Going back to number 72, I think it is, like, the knowledgeable having lost their sense of awe, right? Like, you're not in awe when you just bunch everything together under the realm of science. Like, it can be understood. No.
I've got another thing to add. Yeah, I've got another thing to add about this fan. Yeah. And it's about subtlety, and it is about what is. Yeah. So we've been driving the van about, and we'd had to go up one of the motorways, and it was kind of chock-a-block, and so we were driving towards the last sit, and we wanted to be in that area, ready for making sure that we fulfilled what we promised we would do. And anyway, driving along, nothing happened, and then suddenly the temperature gauge shot up. And there was a sign that said, stop immediately, in the van, stop immediately, overheated engine. Mm-hmm. And when that happened was less than a mile from my friend's house, a mile. And now, I could have been anywhere in the UK, remember? Yeah. But it was less than a mile away from my friend. And I rang him, and stupidly I said, we're in wherever it was, but it was the wrong name. It's very similar, but it was the wrong name. The name that I gave him, we're in so-and-so, we've got a problem with the van, was probably 60 miles away, and he was at work. And he said, well, just ring AA then. And I'm like, that's a bit off. I'm just not far from you. And then I clicked. I'm in your town, actually. He went, why didn't you say so? You're telling me you're 60 miles away. So just come round, limp it round, let it cool down, limp it round, and then we'll deal with it. And that worked, that worked. So that was interesting. Yeah. On the same token, that person recommended me to a garage, which was the first garage I went to, that wanted to charge me 2/3 as much for the same stuff,
same work, yeah.
Yeah, and the way the guy was looking at me, I followed what I felt inside about it all. Yeah. So I cancelled that, and then I got a second opinion from another sit that I go to, a lovely lady, and she said, take it here. Took it there. Same diagnosis, but it needed to go to the maker, the van maker, really, to get fixed properly, because Brad, as you know, has got OCD, so he has to go to the horse's mouth every time. Right. Yeah. It's just how he is. Yeah, that's right. He says to me, does my throat look bad? And I look at it and I say, no, it looks a little bit red, but nothing to worry about. And then he'll say, I need a doctor's appointment. That's Brad. That is Brad. That's just how he is. He's so different to me. He's so different that it's lovely. It kind of works really well. But yeah, it was just by luck that this whole incident happened within a range where I could ask for help, which is a new thing to me. Well, actually, it's been about 2 years now, but it keeps me exercising that ability to just not worry about what people think, just to ask, because there's two answers and I can cope with both of those.
Right.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting, wasn't it?
That's beautiful. Man, life is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You need to ease yourself into that kind of idea then you discover
it takes a while to get there, but because that's only because we believe it's not for so long. Like there's all sorts of residue that we have to get through. Yeah,
it gets sticky. You need a cloth for that.
Yeah. And then you got to wash it and use it again.
Yeah, right. Definitely. That's very ecology or whatever the word's supposed to be.
It's good.
I love you very, very much, Martin John. Thanks for letting me come up and talk to you. I've missed you, and as always, you just give me things to think about, get my mind ticking. And today, I think I'm in absolute appreciation. That's it. Absolutely in appreciation. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day. Love you.
And you. I love you.
Okay. So Jane, Julie, and myself all picked numbers, and we went through and connected them all, and really kind of talked about a lot of different things. Thank you guys so much for joining me. The Tao is a truth that we can really embrace. And I'm looking forward to coming back tomorrow. Anybody that is interested in talking Tao can come up and pick a number. Thank you so much. If you guys are interested in checking a workshop on the Tao or picking up another copy of the Tao, of my translation, or your first copy of the Tao, I would recommend my translation. I think it is one of the best. Stephen Mitchell was my first translation, and I do think that I've updated it a bit, and it is a good translation. You can find that on my website, which you can find in my profile on my website or on my link tree. And you can find links to both the workshop and picking up your copy of the Tao there. Thank you so much for joining me. And Mark, if you're listening, I'll be mailing out your copy today. Thank you so much. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.